Well, thanks for tuning in. In this lesson, I'll be using Mont Marte Water Mixable Oil Paint to create this beautiful baby. Before I get started, if you'd like more information on these fantastic paints or you'd like to see more free art lessons, then log on to our website at www.montmarte.net. We also have links to our art club, The Creative Connection, and our Facebook page too. And we'd love to meet you. So, let's get into it. So, I wanted to highlight what great results can be achieved from using these water mixable oil paints and how clean, odourless and convenient they are. So I thought a baby painted using traditional techniques would be perfect. After researching some Renaissance baby paintings, it became apparent that a few of the masters were not, it would appear, that adept with babies for some reason, as some of these paintings would suggest. But then they didn't have photo reference like me, and babies don't stay still, I guess. So let's get started. We have supplied this image along with photos that you can download from the above link and at our website. And transferring the image is simply achieved by shading the back of the line image, taping it into position and retracing with a ballpoint pen. Lay in everything and add the shading to areas of dark shadow, and voila! You can then place the panel onto your easel. Incidentally, I'm using a canvas panel as it has a very fine weave. We can then add some paint, in this case h2o water mixable oils in the intro set. I create a tint colour with white, lemon yellow, phthalo green and cadmium red. I mix in some Mont Marte water mixable linseed oil so that my paint is the viscosity of cream. To apply all my paint, I'm using Taklon brushes from the oil colour brush set. I then lay it onto the canvas. It is important that the tint is thin enough that the drawing is visible. If you can't see the drawing, add more medium. As I lay this on, I make the coat patchy as this adds more interest than what a flat coat would. Then let this dry. One could also use acrylic for this tinting stage also. Let us now lay in the background underpainting. For this I use white, cobalt blue, lemon yellow and ultramarine violet. I create a sky blue tone from blue and white. This will be the main tone into which I will lay the yellows and violets. I add this coat with the large flat and only wash it if I add pure white. Like in the corner here, I want the light source to be apparent and exaggerated. Again, I'm not too worried if the coat is patchy as I'll be glazing another coat over it. I just want to keep it thin and lay the colours into the right spots. I suggest a little shadow with my pure violet applied with my small round and blend it into the background. This paint blends effortlessly. I'll be refining this as well with the top coat. Now for the grisaille. A grisaille is a painting rendered in black and white, and in this technique it is what supplies the work with tonal rendering. I make a mid-grey and into that I add pure white for the highlights and black for the shadows. Incidentally, this is the technique used by the outstanding Venetian painter Titan, amongst others. So, referring to my reference photos, I build up these tones, and with the slow drying oil paint, this is not that hard. If a tone needs lightening, add pure white and smoothly blend it in. The paint will stay workable for days, so there is no rush. One can just keep refining until it looks right. Using this method provides a lustrous surface, and one doesn't create muddiness. This method lost favour with the artists in the 20th century who preferred the direct painting method known as alla prima, but it really does deliver a clean, smooth painting with a luminous clarity. I suppose some might see this technique as a little drawn out, lacking spontaneity, which is probably true for the time-poor artists, whereas others will love the process. I enjoy a traditional approach though, and I really like the resulting glow achieved, and I like the journey. The way the paints easily blend make balancing tones easy. Hands are always tricky, and babies' hands are pudgy little things. Just lay in the differing tones and blend them together with a soft clean brush. From there you can just add and subtract. If you make a colour too dark, just remove the offending tone with a rag and replace it with the right one. Once we're happy with the body, we can move on to our little friend's head. I like to add my darkest darks first and then move to the lights. Blend them and relay in white for highlights. Of course, once you try this for yourself, you will see what works for you. In other news, you will notice my new glasses coming into camera from time to time. I have had to start wearing these infernal goggles as everything started to get blurry, and I must admit life is much easier with them. So I just continue to lay in the tones and essentially just fill up the areas. Remember, black is a very strong colour and possesses great tinting strength. So just make sure you lay in good amounts of whites and greys, as you don't want to overpower your grisaille with dark tone. With the areas of shadow, make them dark, because when the glaze is applied, it will mask some of the depth of tone. I tend to take a sporadic approach to applying each section. Most of the darker tones will be shadow accents. Another thing to bear in mind is to follow the contour of the form with this application. You are sculpting in a way, and the tonal transitions are more logically translated. You need to use a little theory in regards to where reflected light will lie, sometimes even in flat shadow areas. It also pays to use as little an amount of paint as you can get away with. Remember, oil paint goes a long way, and transitional blending is much smoother when the paint is sparse. One thing I will mention is the head of a baby is a lot rounder, and as such is full of compound curves, rather than with an adult's head, which has a lot less cutaneous fat. After the tones are laid in, I softly blend them with a dry clean brush. It is very important to ensure the brush is dry, as a wet brush will in effect remove the paint from the surface. Although Titan didn't invent the grisaille per se, he did perfect it. Da Vinci has been said to be the first to use a monochromatic underpainting and then glaze over it, but he didn't use this technique with his figures. He preferred to build up tertiary tones on top of one another. That is why his paintings have many brownish hues. The lips will be overglazed with a rich warm red, and for the resulting colour to be deep and believable, we need to apply a fairly dark tone. Lay the lights in over this dark hue, blending smooth all the time. It is a good idea to keep walking back to review your progress. In reality, a painting will normally be viewed from a couple of meters away. I like to lay my ultra highlights in last and sort of balance out any planes, like at the bottom of the mouth here and the highlight on the chin. Once the grisaille is finished, I lay the glaze onto the background. I use the same colours but add some linseed medium. This coat should be translucent so the underlying colour can be seen through it. This is what gives it that luminous depth. And again, I lay this on quite thinly. I don't want the coat to be too flat, so I vary the angle of my brush strokes. I really like that dirty underlying colour coming through. A lot of traditional paintings from the 15 to 1600s are characterised by having rich dark shadow backgrounds built up with layers of transparent umbers and blacks. This chiaroscuro of contrast created a real gothic atmospheric depth, but might not suit this piece. Relay in any areas of shadow, in this case with the ultramarine violet. Once the colour is laid in, I use a large dry clean brush to smooth off the coat. I got this tip from Bob Ross and it works a charm. Now we need to let this dry to the touch, and this should take about 3 to 5 days. Okay, well our painting is dry, ready for the glaze. So let's mix up some convincing skin tones. First I create a yellow ochre from white, lemon yellow, orange, cadmium red, phthalo green and cobalt blue. Create the mix with incremental additions. This way you build the colour slowly and gain a real understanding in colour mixing theory. And will understand exactly what a certain hue will do to your mix. Separate the mix and add more yellow to warm up the mix. Take a bit of this and add some white and red. Separate this and add more white. Continually look at the skin on your hand and adjust accordingly. Once we're happy with our skin tone, we need to dilute it with some water mixable linseed medium. This will be the glaze, and it must be translucent enough so the tonal modelling of our grisaille can be seen beneath. Now for the fun part, applying the glaze. Use a broad brush and thinly apply it. Remember to take your time and ensure it is very see-through, but not that transparent that the colour is flat. I like to drag the colour around, and I always use a soft Taclon. So the general rule is to ensure that the glaze is more transparent with red added over any shadow accents, so more grey tone comes through. If you look at a part of your hand in shadow, you will see that it has a grey tinge to it. Go on, look at your hand. See? Well, you want that tone on the appropriate areas of your painting. Look, you're probably sick of me waffling on, so let's listen to some music while we paint our baby. See you next time!